Yo, 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 what it do? What it be, y'all? It's your boy A&T repping the Spell Block Agency, coming to you with a little 2K18 commentary. And before I get into this, let me just give y'all full disclosure. I don't necessarily believe in God, like an omnipotent being that can see everything, know everything, be everywhere, and then just snap the whole universe into or out of existence and then like just disappear. No one's talked to bro in centuries except for like faith and signs. So I don't know if I buy into all that, but I do believe in a higher power or powers. There's some things in this world we can't explain. That's why it's called the supernatural. Not talking about the goof ass show. And judging by how things are going with everything, we're never gonna discover some of these lifelong mysteries. And so something I noticed growing up, anyways, back on subject, Jesus is almost always depicted as white. He got brown hair, red hair, black hair. We don't know what hair color he was, but we know he white. So there's not even a lot of depictions of God, but when you type in God into Google Images, it's a white dude with a snow white beard. Same thing with Jesus. So I ain't gonna say Jesus wasn't white, because hell, maybe he was. Like I'm not saying he wasn't, but if he was gonna need some hella holy sunscreen out there in the Middle East next to the equator with no melanin. So crazy part is, the earliest painting we found of Jesus is 200 years after his supposed death. So we have no portraits, no depictions, nothing of literally the most famous man in history while he was alive, to our knowledge. We have, some mosaics painted in like the Renaissance era or whatever, but to our knowledge, we have no depictions of Christ other than what the Holy Scriptures tell us. The little hair of wool type, ordeal. We got that little description. That's really it. No paintings. People wasn't drawing him on slabs. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But his teachings, even though no one really knew what he looked like or wasn't drawing him or whatever, his teachings and philosophy spawned a whole religion. And it not only saw him as the sacrificial lamb that saved humanity and gave his life, but his faith and teachings about his God Yahweh also live on through the Holy Bible, which is only the most produced book in the entire world. So one particular group, though, that took Jesus and his Bible's teachings, or the Bible's teachings, and added their own little spin on it, was the Europeans, and particularly Germany and Spain, who they went on the now infamous crusades that spread Christianity through brutal indoctrination and bloodshed. I mean, that's just kind of how it was. It wasn't really their whole goal, really. They just wanted to spread the word of Christ. But if you go through, look it up, the first People's Crusades or whatever, the People's Crusades, that's kind of what it turned into. Just a big riot. They were everybody killing non-Christians, and pretty much the only way to get them to stop it was be like, all right, we Christians now. They were like, oh, you Christian? All right, we'll stop killing y'all. Crazy. So whenever or however Christianity spread to Europe, they took it to a whole nother level. Look no further than the Vatican. They built literally an entire city around Jesus and that whole Christianity thing. So whenever or however Christianity spread to Europe, that's when Jesus began to be depicted with more European or white features, because the Crusades wouldn't, or couldn't have, a more Middle Eastern Jesus, because that's where they were crusading. That's where they were preaching against is like the Middle East and stuff like that. So it's a lot harder to rape and pillage in Jesus' name when he looks like the people you're massacring. And B, mostly all cultures who painted or drew depictions of Jesus drew him in their own cultural image in some aspect. Like, we have depictions of 6th century Ethiopian Jesus. So, and I even seen pictures somewhere of Asian Jesus. And, in 21 Jump Street, there was Korean Jesus. So, so white Jesus existed 400 years before this guy, Cesare Borgia, was even a twinkle in his pappy's eye. Yeah, it had to make the line rhyme. So, but there are still some theories out there that a lot of Jesus' most famous depictions or the paintings we see of him are actually based on a man who came from one of the most infamous families of all time. And if you've ever played Assassin's Creed, I think it's 2, and for sure Brotherhood, you know how dirty the Borgias got down. And it's kind of true to life because Caesar supposedly killed his brother in order to take over his cardinalship, his land, and pretty much everything he had. He left bro in a river. I mean, some people think he even did it. He ain't even pay like a militia or an assassin. Some people think he killed his own brother just get his own shit. And even crazier part is him and the brother he killed were basically piping down one of their other brothers like wives, his main. So I don't know. The Borgias were a real piece of work, and Caesar was the Mona Lisa pretty much. I don't know. And that's kind of ironic, but we'll get to that. But during his life, even though he did it dirty, he became an accomplished statesman and war general. And eventually he was like the statesman or leader of Florence. And he, Niccolo Machiavelli, and Leonardo even worked together to fortify the city of Florence. And it was his hiring of Leonardo and Leonardo's painting of Salvator Mundi, which is basically like a painting of Christ, that led a lot of biblical or historical scholars to believe that our current image of Jesus is based off Cesare Borgia. And when I first seen him side by side, no cap, no gown, I kind of bought into it. When you look at the similarities, there are definitely some similarities. But when you do research and really look into it, it really just might be a coincidence. Like, the Salvator Mundi was painted in 1500, and Leonardo didn't get hired by Cesare Borgia until 1503. And I can't really picture the Pope pulling aside Leonardo like, hey, like, you gonna paint my son, but you gonna call it Christ. Like 3 years before Leonardo ever even painted or even got to really know Caesar. And I don't even think Caesar and Leonardo had the best relationship. Even though there are some rumors on the internet that they were lovers supposedly. Look, I'm gonna just go ahead and say that's not true, because Caesar somewhere along the way contracted syphilis, and now, he died in 1507, I believe. So you're gonna hire Leonardo a few years before you die. He most definitely had syphilis by now, and Leonardo dies I think he died 1515. And he had no symptoms or signs of syphilis at all. So I don't think they were lovers, and I don't think the Salvator Mundi, in my opinion, was inspired at all by Cesare Borgia. I think he just had Jesus with noble European-looking features, which, ironically, Caesar was a European noble. So it just kind of worked out like that. People just kind of grabbed his picture and gravitated towards that likeness. And that could just be me. Maybe the Vatican really does have this grand conspiracy, but I couldn't find any viable evidence that had them going around specifically looking for like Jewish, Middle Eastern, or even African pictures of Jesus and destroying them. I think that happened later on when they invaded Africa or whatever, and they destroyed like all the noses on all the sculptures or whatever. I think that actually happened, but as far as like the Jesus images, I think the Crusades were literally just raping and pillaging in the name of Jesus. At least that's what it turned into. I don't think they were like, oh, y'all got images of Jesus, like y'all got false Christ. They were literally just doing it against anybody who didn't believe in Jesus, period. So, and like I said before that, the Crusades started 400 years before Cesare Borgia, so they were trying to spread that European Jesus even before that. So, another painting people look to, as far as like the Cesare Borgia likeness, is the head of Christ, and it does resemble kind of Cesare Borgia. One thing I noticed about Caesar though and Jesus, if I can get off topic real quick, Caesar kind of had straight hair, and the only painting that we have during his like lifetime is a profile of him for his statesmanship for Florence, and it doesn't really look like Jesus at all. I mean, maybe in the face because he has the European features, but his beard definitely is bigger than Jesus. He doesn't have curly hair. His hair is more like straight, kind of like straw. Especially in his most famous depiction, which wasn't even until 200 years after his death. And that's what a lot of people have to understand. A lot of these paintings, like, we don't even know what we don't even know what like Christopher Columbus looked like, because he didn't really have any paintings painted during his time. His most earliest painting or depiction of him is 100 years after his death. So we don't really have anything of him, like I said, while he was alive, just like Jesus. And it's just like, we don't know what these people look like because photographs and pictures didn't exist. So, like I said, it's just kind of coincidence that people just was like, oh, here's a European statesman that kind of resembles some of the depictions of Jesus. This is where they got it from. But really, it started way, like I said, 400 years before that. And that other painting I mentioned, the head of Christ, was painted by some guy named Warner Stallman. I believe his name was. Yeah, Warner Stallman. And if you look him up, his painting does kind of resemble what people think Cesare Borgia looked like. But he had no real influences from the Vatican or anything like that. He sketched it in 1921, painted it in 1940, and that's really it. It was his own vision or depiction of, a white Jesus, pretty much. There's no real similarities. There's nothing connecting him with Da Vinci or the Vatican, nothing like that. And yeah, Yao had a crucial spin move and missed earlier, but he was clutch right now. Finally made himself useful. Ugh, clutch, baby. Get that dub. But sorry. But yeah, there was no grand conspiracy that I could find that had the Vatican paying Leonardo or pushing the propaganda of Cesare Borgia's specific image as Jesus. They just didn't want pretty much like a brown or Jewish looking Jesus or a Middle Eastern looking Jesus. And just like his life, most of his life, We only have his his birth, of course, and his ministry work when he first began preaching, but we don't know a lot of Jesus's early life, and we damn sure don't know what he looked like. So it's the true image of Christ is lost to history, and maybe there were some depictions of Jesus based on Caesar, but that was, like I said, white Jesus started long before him, and other cultures have also made depictions of Jesus, which would also be considered false, because we don't really know what he looked like. Even in 2001, scientists tried to recreate an image of what Jesus really possibly could have looked like. So, and we're no closer today than then, or even back in the day. So it's just one of history's many mysteries. Hope y'all enjoyed the video, giving y'all some primo info. It's been your boy A&T. Go ahead and leave a like. Don't leave a dislike. That's some hater shit. Subscribe. Ring the damn bell, like I said. Go ahead and leave a comment on a history mystery you want me to cover. But yeah, be safe out there. Don't get smoked. I'm out. Peace.